All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live, and for the first time in a couple weeks now, we have the three of us here. Myself, Pavo in the middle, Patrick in that third screen all the way to your right. Patrick, how was your vacation? Tell us all about the sunshine, because I'd be lying to you if I told you you look like you got a tan, though. I'm not going to lie.
Well, all right. Well, I'm an Irishman. I only tan so much. But,
Well, you can't really see him, so
yeah, and I'm a little blurry apparently, so it's not gonna but fantastic. Just unplugged. Didn't really touch my phone. Just kind of unplugged from all technology and just hung out with the kids. Sat on the beach. Windy, but could be worse. Plane ride probably the worst part with kids. So outside that was fantastic.
Beautiful. That's good to hear. So since the last time we saw you, the audience, a couple things happened in Detroit. Without getting too far into it, Cam Sutton is accused of a couple of things and is now released by the Lions. I don't really, it seems like it's a domestic violence issue. I don't really want to get too much into it, to tell you the truth, but Lions made what looks like the right decision, if all these things are true, to release him, move on, and thank God prior to that, they did get some new corners in free agency, so it's not like, I would say there's still a hole there, and we can get into that a little tonight if you guys want, but they're not in the worst possible spot at that position right now. Cam definitely didn't have the best season last year, but I also think he was a little unfairly criticized at points. He was asked to do a lot out of his skill set, and he had some really talented guys to cover regardless. But I think we could all agree on that. Smart move, release him. Hopefully the Lions can settle something there with the NFL in terms of getting some of that cap space back. I know they'll get
it back.
Yeah. As of right now, I think they got
like nothing back right now. But there's a process you have to do. You got to cut him. You got to say before June 1, after June 1, and then you got to file with the NFL, so you can get everything back except his signing bonus. So I think it's something, I forgot the exact numbers, but they'll lose some money there. But they can still go after him for the signing. So, and I don't know how that works if you win that. You get that back into salary cap. But it'll take a little bit of time to unravel itself. It's a pretty bizarre case, though, And then hearing Ron Wood talk about it the other day makes it even more bizarre. That you got a police department, they just can't find the guy. But then he's at work working out. Like, it just kind of, to me, doesn't really show that they really try to find him.
Yeah, it's a very bizarre situation. I haven't even gotten an update if they found him yet or not. I think right now he's still missing technically.
Yeah.
So it's a bizarre situation, but in some good news, another thing that happened with the Lions while we were away, they improved at guard. They brought in Kevin Zeitler. That's awesome. That's a big signing. He is an older guy. Zeitler is 34 years old, but he's played a ton of football. Knock on wood, he's played a lot of games. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think I want to say he had a PFF score overall at like 68, 69, something like that. But from all accounts, widely regarded as a great guard in this league, and something that it was a hole that needed to be plugged. Right, we lost Jonah Jackson to L.A. To go play with Stafford and the Rams, and I would say this is probably an upgrade from Jonah Jackson, definitely from a health standpoint, and honestly. Definitely the PFF score. I saw that was like a 10-point upgrade there. But if you just watch the tape, because I think this year Jonah had some peaks and valleys in 2023 that we had talked about all season, where games he looked like an all-pro, and then there are games where he looked like a replacement level player. So to have kind of a steady hand there, I'm going to assume he's going to play left guard and Graham's going to play right. But to have a steady hand there, that's awesome.
I thought I read somewhere that they were going to have Graham move to left, but I can't be positive on that. I think they're going to keep him in a neutral position just because they're like, hey, this guy's end of his career. It's not smart to ask him to move now. And Graham has played left guard back when he was first with the Lions, and he's played between Decker and Ragnow. So I think they're probably more continuity there, but I could be. I thought I read something that said like he was more likely to switch to left than they'd have Zeitler. But I think you're right, man. Like it was a glaring hole because I obviously think the line is like that was like a huge centerpiece of their success this past year, and not just replacing but upgrading. Like I'm with you. Like I think it's an absolute upgrade. The guy's been rock solid for the better part of a decade, and he's plug and play. He's plug and play. Like he doesn't need a learning curve. He's gonna pick up the system, I think, pretty quickly, and I'm excited about it. I was very happy. That was one concern I had about losing that position and like how they're going to plan to replace it. But that is, they shut us up real quick, and that's awesome.
And I think it really helps. I mean, we had talked about it, I think, after a free agency a week ago, that they really can do whatever they want in the first round of the draft. But this like really solidifies them doing whatever they want. If they want to go out and get another guard, they could do that. They want to get a corner, they could do that. An edge guy, if they want to go tackle, right? I mean, Taylor Decker's on the last year of his deal. If they wanted to go tackle, they could do that too. Like there are so many different things they could do that really would make sense. And that's what you want. That's what you want. You want to use free agency to plug some holes within your roster. And you build through the draft, but and I think, from a money standpoint, like everything that Brad Holmes has done this offseason really has made sense. He hasn't given out insane contracts. Some of the guys he has brought in, like Carlton Davis, he already got to restructure. We lost Paul there. I don't know what the hell happened. He didn't overspend on Jonah Jackson. He was able to get Zeitler at a fair price. It's really hard to pick apart what Brad Holmes is doing here in Detroit and poke holes in it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that like to kind of like piggyback off what you're saying there, I really like how they structure the deals of a lot of like 1-2 year deals.
Pat, I'm going to switch you guys. I'm sorry, Paul's back.
Go ahead. I've been upgrading all these positions, but at the same time not overpaying, and also again back to the draft, like leaving themselves open where they can legitimately draft. Like it's a 1 year deal with Zeitler. It's a 2 year deal with Amik at the cornerback position. Carlton Davis is only, I think, a couple years left on his contract, maybe only 1 year. I don't know if they plan to extend him or not, but they're still in a perfect position where they've improved at multiple positions without kind of pigeonholing themselves to long term, like to committing for long terms. But now they can draft a guy that they can bring them along slowly. They don't have to ask too much of them in year one, which they've been doing a lot the first few years. So it's like really interesting to finally see like their first like kind of getting knee deep in free agency and kind of how they worked it and like what they did. And I thought they came out across the board just smiles on my end. I liked everything they did pretty much. Like I'm kind of shocked. It's the first time ever I've said that.
And they've set up a good cap situation for 25 and beyond. So, Pavel, what are you? Where are you at on Zeitler? Thumbs up, thumbs down, excited?
I think it was me and you talking. We talked that morning. I said I'd like to sign this guy, and I think 2 hours later they signed him. Not even that. I think it was an hour later. I sent you a picture that I think we're having a conversation at 5:30. I mean, I think he's a good, solid guard. I think he has. I think he might now with Kelsey and Cox retiring. I think he might have the longest streak of straight games. So he plays. He doesn't get hurt. I don't want to jinx the guy. I think he played like 133 or 135 straight games. I believe from what I read, you said right guard, Pat, or left guard? I think he's going to be playing right guard from what I read.
Yeah, I read right guard as well because him and Glasgow have been playing that, but
he's played almost all. So listen, I'm not sold on Graham Glasgow even being the starter next year. If someone falls him in the first round, one of these young guards, it's probably Glasgow going to be the main backup at guard center. So I think it's going to be Glasgow, but like you said, if that kid from Oregon falls to them at center guard, he's going to be playing. If it's the other guard, So we'll see what happens with the draft. But I mean, yeah, they listen. I think they best. I with everything happened to to Sutton. I do think that DB is a glaring need,
Yeah.
like glaring. Like outside is Amik is not your answer. Like, and then it's just him. It's just I don't think that's his strength. I think his strength is gonna have to be like that third corner that could come in, bring some attitude, fill in. He can do all the talk he wants and say you got a superstar player next to him, but like, dude, you've not been a superstar your whole life. Like, you're a baller, but like, you're not some stud player. So I hope that that they go figure out who's the other starting corner on the outside.
He's definitely a physical presence, though.
Yeah,
I will
he's
say that
physical.
about Robertson. He's not scared
Of course.
to
So
tackle.
is Jerry Jacobs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
a fair point.
and I'm
That's
not
a fair
saying I
point.
think he's better than Jerry Jacobs. I'm gonna have really issues if he's your other starting corner, 5'9", 5'8", whatever he really is. Like that to me, it doesn't fill the hole. Like so for me, like corner, that might be signing, that might be trading for a corner, that could be drafting a corner. Like there's still people out there, but they're gonna have to go find a corner. So that to me is the biggest glaring need on the team. So and they don't
if
have a
you're
lot of
picking it-
depth.
If you're picking at 29, they're especially with, I mean, how many times we've talked about and we've debated the quarterbacks coming out in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a quarterback, wide receiver, and offensive tackle heavy NFL draft, right? So, if this is a year that you are looking for a pretty decent corner in the first round, you probably don't have to trade up to get that guy. Even if you're picking at 29 where the Lions are.
Yeah.
You probably don't have to trade up for a guy, or whatever we are, 28. You don't have to trade up for a guy like that. I mean, in all honesty. So unless for some odd reason there's a run on corners in the mid-teens, but I doubt that with all the quarterback, left tackle, and
I
wide
think
receiver talent.
I think the Lions are at least going to give them a shot that if they really love a corner like 23, 24, they could probably trade up and get him.
Yeah.
Like give them
They
that
got
opportunity, they
drafted.
can move up 4 or 5 spots. But I agree. I mean, I think there could be 4 quick quarterbacks will be gone for sure in the first round. But I think there's a good shot there could be 5 or 6 still. I don't know. Bo Nix makes it. So guys are going to drop. It's probably going to go receiver crazy too. So you're probably looking at 4 or 5 quarterbacks drafted before the Lions. 5, 6 receivers could possibly go before them. You're going to have offside. You're going to get some corners that are going to follow you. So, but you know what? Brad Holmes said, and I love it. He said that free agency is where you draft, where you go for need. You want to set yourself for the draft, you take best available. So,
Agreed.
yeah, but listen, I think there's gonna be some players that could be traded on draft day. If it's trading for Newsome, that we keep hearing these talks, the Lions liking him. Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, Aaron chimes in here. Josh Reynolds, depth hurt. That's a guy that it sucks to lose him, but and this is probably on the outside. If you're not a Lions fan, this is a conceited take, but I think it's the truth. I think Josh Reynolds needed the Lions more than the Lions needed Josh Reynolds, and that's not a knock on him. I thought he did a great job this year. He had a bad NFC Championship. We all remember those drops, but I mean, Jared Goff and this Lions offense turned Josh Reynolds into somewhat of a household name this playoff series, this playoff campaign, and that was a guy otherwise not really known. He's got some good traits, but I think when you look at the money when you look at the money and the skill set of Josh Reynolds and Donovan Peoples-Jones, it's a similar skill set, and I believe we're paying $2 million for Peoples-Jones, and Josh is getting $7 a year. He got 2 years, $14 million from where did he go?
Denver.
He went to Denver.
It's a really similar story besides like the golf connection. Like, we got golf like week 8 or 9 from Tennessee that year.
Reynolds.
And I think me and you went over these stats. Like I think Josh Reynolds had like 19 catches in like 9 games. He didn't do much. Then he got a full off season coming in, working with the starters, getting back in the flow of things, understanding the offense, having a whole off season to work with Ben Johnson. And then he last year, not this year, year before, he had a much better year than this year. I think Peoples-Jones can do the same thing. He could come in now, have a whole off season, get into the groove of stuff, And I think listen, his upside, it might be higher than what Josh Reynolds is. So, but I also think the Lions draft a quarterback, a receiver. I think the Lions take a receiver in the first, second, or third round. So, or fourth, but I think the Lions will draft a receiver too.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I would have no problem with that. I have no problem with they want to go corner, they want to go edge rusher, D tackle, guard tackle, whatever they want to do. I'm all ears for any of those. Let's get into the offseason a little. So we'll start with the Bears, and I'm starting with the Bears because I think of the other two teams in this division. For me, I think the Bears offseason is probably the most intriguing, right? Now, not so much for, I guess a little for what they've done so far. So let's talk a little of what they did in this offseason. They added DeAndre Swift, right, from who played in Philly last year, who actually had a decent season in Philly. They re-signed Jalen Johnson. Brett Ripon as a backup quarterback. Matt Pryor, an offensive tackle. Gerald Everett, the tight end from the Chargers, signed a 2-year, $14 million deal. 6.1 of that fully guaranteed over there. And Kevin Byard at safety. And it looks like Jonathan Owens as well. Amin Ogba, I can't even say that name.
Did you mention Keenan? Did you mention Keenan Allen?
And Keenan Allen. I was
Wow.
getting to the bottom of that list. And Keenan Allen. I did not mention him. Solid offseason for them. Where do you guys want to start? Do you guys think that the Bears improved this offseason from where they were a year ago? And also saying goodbye to Justin Fields, sending him to Pittsburgh.
So I agree with Dan Campbell that he should be really happy Justin Fields is out of the division because he gives Detroit, for some reason, a hard time. I think they improved, but I think they're taking a big risk with this quarterback. I think Justin Fields is a lot better than what they're letting him just to walk away from. So me personally, I think they should have signed these guys, made the trades they did, bring Justin Fields back for a year, draft, maybe trade out of that first pick, probably get another first-round pick for it, so you have double picks next year, and make one more run with Justin Fields. I believe they won 6-3 in their last 9 with him yesterday, and they should have beat the Lions. So in that first game, that's 7-2. So I don't know if, but they definitely improved. I don't know if they're going to improve for next year at quarterback play, but we'll see. There's a lot of moves that I think are kind of like garbage moves. Like Bird sucks. Like the safety that they signed from.
It's better than Eddie Jackson at this point, though.
Is it?
Like that's
I don't
an
know.
upgrade. Yeah, 100%.
I don't think so.
Eddie Jackson's he's a shell of his former self. Like
did you
that
watch
guy used to
Bird
give the
last
Lions
year?
fits.
Did you watch Bird yesterday?
No,
Last year?
not so
he
much.
was awful. In Philly and in Tennessee. Keenan Allen's a great pickup.
Mm-hmm.
If he can stay healthy.
If he could stay healthy, right?
Yeah. But
Pat,
I think, pal, nailed the spot in the head. I think the moves they made like they have a quarterback already in position.
Yeah.
And like it just doesn't make it does. I get what they're doing, and I get it. I guess it can technically, if their defense kind of stays stout like they were last year, you give a lot of weapons to your new young quarterback because they can use 1 and 9 on a receiver if they choose to. They can do whatever the hell they want now.
Yeah.
So it's like they could just give this kid everything in the fucking world. Like, hey, one of the best route runners to play the game.
Besides an offensive line,
except for an offensive line, that's very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So I know they've done they made a couple moves, and they also in their defense I think they do have a pretty young offensive line in general. So
well, they drafted a first round guy last year. What's his name? Wright from Auburn.
Yeah, so I know they still got some guys figuring it out. I know they got the Ryan Bates trade as well to get like some kind of balance at guard center. I can't remember what exactly he plays, but like it's risky. That's all it comes down to. I think it was best for them to get rid of Fields as an organization because I feel like there's like a fractured relationship just brewing there, and it just once that happens, and that's just kind of there's no repairing it. You kind of have to move on at that point. I think they kind of dropped the ball in that regard. They didn't really like cat was out of the bag. Everyone knew they were getting rid of him like before the season was even over, which just was I'm happy about because it diminished his trade value so much that they couldn't get rid of him for what they wanted. They got him for that could go down as the best value trade for the Steelers ever if they end up like turning his career around. And I think that's a great spot for him, a great head coach. He's not going to be forced. He's going to have to compete for the starting job if he even wins it. So, like, I think it's a perfect scenario for him to kind of, like, get his confidence back, build himself back up. But for the Bears' perspective, better, technically. Will it work? Whole other question. Because now this quarterback has to perform coming in.
Yeah.
Or else
I think
they're
like,
not going to be good.
I don't know why, like, the Bears just kind of remind me the way we used to do shit. Like, you know, like, we would get like excited and like, let's get this, let's go maybe draft this quarter, let's get all the sexy pieces. Instead, like, let's get the big boys up front and truly invest year after year after year. Like they're doing all the jersey selling guys. You know, everyone's going to want their Keenan Allen. Yeah. And you know what's I
Bears will probably be a top 5 like jersey to buy this offseason. I would.
But here's like my thing. Like Poles said, the reason he traded him to Pittsburgh because he wanted to do Justin Fields good. He said, I was there with Kansas City when we drafted Patrick Mahomes, and I saw the benefit that Patrick Mahomes got behind learning behind a true NFL leader in Alex Smith. And I wanted to get him a chance to go play behind Russell Wilson. So now you just said that. So now, do you believe that? Or are you just trying to sound like Mr. Good Guy when you take your quarterback, Caleb Williams, at number 1? Because if you believe that, you should put Caleb on the bench and let him learn behind some kind of leader. If that's what you just came out and said. Like, I believe that Patrick Mahomes and learning behind a guy, or are you going to let him play?
Yeah, man. That's why they got Brett Rypien.
I still tell you, could still be. I still think it could be JJ at 1. I'm still going to go out there. It's all said and done. He's a local Chicago kid. I would hate it though because I would like.
You wouldn't know who to root for on Sunday.
I didn't say I would root for. I would root for him to break his leg. Yes,
you're probably
I would
going
hate
to
him
root against him because it seems like the better.
That's how I roll.
Is Minnesota, so
the favorite for to draft him
for JJ.
JJ, yeah,
yeah. Like I mean, I know they like him, but supposedly Washington's in love with him now. Who's Washington's coach?
I think that I couldn't.
The DC from the asshole
Canales.
that 28-3, Dan Quinn.
He was number 2 behind Brad Johnson.
Dan Quinn. Jesus.
Oh, Dan Quinn. Yeah.
I forgot.
Let's get into the Vikings here. Vikings signed Aaron Jones, who was released by the Packers.
Doesn't make sense.
They lost. Nope. They lost Kirk Cousins. They bring in Sam Darnold. They bring in Jonathan Greenard. I don't know how to say that name.
Greenard from Houston.
Greenard.
Good player.
Which is a great pickup.
Yeah, 3-4
Andrew
guy.
Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, another linebacker, Jihad Ward, another linebacker, Shaquille Griffin, most of these one-year deals, Jonathan Bullard at D-tackle, Jerry Tillery at D-tackle, Jonah Williams at D-end, Brandon Powell at wide receiver, and pretty much not a lot else. David Quisenberry at offensive tackle. Blake Brandel got a decent deal, 3 years, $7 million. So that's actually a really weird deal for a guard. Dan Feeney at guard. I know him locally with the Jets. Wasn't that great. I think he went to the Bears this offseason and didn't do much.
I think the rest of these signings are like just fill in roster
I'm just
guys.
going through them. Jonathan Munt, 1 year, $2.5 million.
Great steal.
And then another one. So, what do we? I could tell by looking at both of your faces, it looks like we're probably the lowest on the Vikings here, right?
I think the Vikings are always good. They got a good defensive coordinator. He's going to get them play hard. You got a diva receiver, Justin Jefferson, who wants to be the highest paid guy. I'm telling you right now, like, you're starting over quarterback, trade the guy. Trade him, go give someone, give you a couple first-round picks for him, save that money. You prove that you got Addison at number 1. Go draft someone, and let them start young. But if they're going to be going Sam Darnold at QB, which kind of scares me, hearing that.
I mean, we have to assume I'm sure they're going to go with one of these quarterbacks. Like everyone's mocking J.J. McCarthy to the Vikings. that they'll
I think they
probably
were,
trade
but
up.
they might. If he's gone before that, I don't know how they love the other guys. But yeah, I mean, they'll probably get one of them. But I think they're also. I don't know. I don't think they did much that scares me. Hawkins is going to miss the first part of the season probably. He tore his ACL in late December, so I can't imagine him not coming back until probably October, November. They signed some good defensive players, but I think that they need to hit another draft. To I think really like contend, and that quarterback position, they got to hit at that position. If they don't hit, I listen. Kirk Cousins is a hell of a quarterback. I'm not saying he's a big time quarterback, winning games, but he's a hell of a regular season quarterback. He did a lot for them, and you saw how much I believe that they last year could have gave us a run for the division of that Kirk Cousins. Probably the closest
I
team
would
they
agree
could.
with that.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So not having him, I don't know. They don't. If they get quarterback play, they could scare me, but I don't think they're going to get quarterback play next year.
Yeah, I'd
Pat,
say.
where are you? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were the best roster outside the Lions in the division. I think maybe Packers are right there with them, but like they helped fill some holes. They lost what was the defensive edge name?
Hunter.
Danielle Hunter. Yeah.
Yeah, they lost Hunter, but then they backfilled it with like 2 other signings. So like they were able to patch holes with good players and add a couple of good pieces to on defense. Offense didn't really do much outside of Darnold, and which is fine because like if I zoom out, look at this, I'm like they were being competitive with he's not a great quarterback, but like he's better than what they had and what they were working with. So like I look at it as like they were competitive with like a worse QB. So they probably should be about the same. Maybe they're an extra win or two better than they were last year, which makes them like a 500 team. So like unless they get that quarterback and they're actually successful this year, like
yeah.
it's just hard. They're a good team, and I was right. Like they're gonna play good on defense. They're gonna play good defensive football in year 2 with and what the hell's his name, the old Miami coach, Flores. He's gonna have an even better defense in year 2 if these guys like adapted to the system. Like it's got offense. I think that he's shown that he can call good plays and call winning games. As long as the quarterback doesn't throw 4 interceptions or fuck it up, like they can win games with like not a like perfect quarterback. And the whole I think Kirk Cousins things, like Powell was saying earlier, kind of plays in the Justin Jefferson. They're gonna pay him, so they couldn't pay Kirk. And like now they're like, okay, so he's gonna get paid. We're gonna have a rookie on a rookie deal. That's gonna offset, and that's where we're at. And just gonna depend who they get, if they're ready, and if they're good in year 1. Like I really have no idea what to make of these guys. And Hawkinson not there, I don't know. It's a tough call, but they'll be competitive. I know that much. How many wins they have, or
They got
competitive?
good.
Whole another question, but I still think they're a good roster, good coaches.
I like the coaching staff. I agree with both of you there. I love Flores. I think Flores is a phenomenal
Fucking love
defensive
him.
mind.
Yeah.
But I don't love this roster. Not as much. I think the Bears have a better roster. I know that the Bears, and I think it really depends on what both of these teams do with their first round pick. And in the Bears' case, 2 first-round picks, right? But, like, if the Bears – I'm not high on Caleb Williams, so if the Bears actually draft Caleb, man, I kind of pray to God they do because I think it's going to be a disaster.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hope so, too. I think he's
A lot of this is going to come down to who drafts the better quarterback. Wherever the Vikings go, wherever the Bears go, I think that's going to determine their season. I think they're similar up front. Like, I don't think the Vikings have a great offensive line. I think they're all right, but I don't think they're great. I think, like you said, Paul, that kid Wright, the tackle that the Bears drafted last year, hopefully for them, he takes a step forward. So maybe that line is a little bit better.
he was okay. Like, he didn't really show signs of being a great, like, tackle even as a rookie. So that's, like, if the Bears are smart, like, you stop thinking about taking Marvin Harrison Jr. with that pick. Like, go get the best guard, offensive lineman. Stop it. Like, stop it trying to be the sexy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Like, do it. But you know what? They're going to be worried it's not going to be the best move with the fans. And you went and traded for Keenan Allen, and you got another good receiver. Like, just stop with it. Yeah. Go get a guard, a line, and especially in Chicago, playing outdoors, wanting to run the ball. Like, but they're They're probably going to go quarterback, and then they're probably going to go like some like sexy position, receiver. But then there's I don't know.
Who knows? We'll see. But I think I'm a little higher on the Bears than I am the I am very low on the Vikings.
I think the Vikings. I'm higher on the Vikings just because I believe in their coaching staff and their president. They got guys that came from the Rams, just like Brad Holmes. Their whole president came from the Rams, and I think they're just more well. Like I believe in that more, and I believe in Kevin O'Neill more than I believe in what the Bears are doing. And if they draft Caleb, like listen, I think the talent's there, but I don't know. But every time the guy played against a big team in a big game, like he didn't do jack shit.
So, Packers offseason here, they brought back Keyshawn Nixon, corner / kick returner. They signed Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. I think that was the big one. That was what prompted them to release Aaron Jones.
But is he any better than Aaron Jones?
I think he is.
The way Aaron Jones was running last year.
I don't think he's a world. I don't think. Put it this way. I don't think it makes sense to cut Aaron Jones, take whatever it was, $7 million in dead cap.
Yeah.
Sign Josh Jacobs. Like what's the deal he signed? So a 4-year, $48 million deal. So like, I know it's identical money. So like, and I don't know. It doesn't make
no
sense
loyalty.
with the dead cap. Yeah. Beyond the loyalty, like it wasn't worth the dead cap you took on to do that. That's my opinion. AJ Dillon they bring back. Xavier McKinney, the safety, I believe he was on the Giants last year. Greg Joseph, the kicker from the Vikings. Corey Ballantyne, the corner from where did he play last year? Was he a Packer? I think he was a Packer. I'm not sure. Tyler Davis, a tight end. That was a re-signing. Christian Welch, a re-signing of the linebacker. So a lot of re-signings. It's almost like the Packers are semi-running it back with a couple mixed pieces in there.
They're never a big team that signs guys. Aaron always complain. Other people complain about that. Like they'll make a signing here or there, but they built through the draft. But they didn't do nothing too impressive. I think the Aaron Jones signing Jacobs is one of the dumbest moves. Just doesn't make sense to me. Like you said, like why do it?
No, from a talent standpoint, it makes sense. I think from a talent standpoint, it makes sense. But from a cap standpoint, to have to cut Jones to bring in a guy that's not a world better than Jones, like Jacobs is better than Jones, but like it's not like we're not talking about like a jump from Aaron Jones to Jahmyr Gibbs. Like you're talking about a little bit of a jump, and you're essentially devoting $14 million to it. Like that's a lot to do.
I think it's also getting younger though, right? Like Aaron Jones is like 30. Aaron Jones, he's been around for a long time.
I mean, he might be like 25, 26.
Aaron Jones?
Yeah.
No chance. He's only like his third contract with Green Packers.
Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I
29.
thought he was like 30.
Oh, he is 29.
So and like Jacobs is what 25 or 26. He's been. This is his second contract, so it's probably around like mid 20s. So I think he's getting a little younger, and we all know the running back when that cliff happens. When the cliff happens, it happens fast, and I think they just got kind of like hedging their bets. Like, hey, you started seeing some more nagging injuries the last couple of years. Aaron Jones sitting out specific games here and there. So it's like, hey, do we want to go this way? And I also think that it was perfect for them because they got probably Josh Jacobs at a discount. Maybe not discount. They paid him a lot of money, but he had a kind of down year, and I think that's kind of part McDaniel's fault because he's a terrible head coach, and they had no quarterback, which didn't make his life easier either. But like, I think, great move, no. A move, sure.
It makes them better. It definitely
makes them
on
better.
paper. It makes them better. There's no denying that. It makes them better. But I think there were ways to use your money that were smarter than that. That's how I look at it.
I mean, the McKinney pickup was probably their best pickup of free agency, and like that's probably like which is great. Like I mean, that's nothing to be overlooked.
I know Giants fans were not to interrupt you, Pat. I'm sorry. No. Giants fans were furious about that.
Yeah, my brother's a Giants fan, so I was like, he's like, dude, he's like, I'm so pissed that he's not on the team anymore, and like he was just like, I love that guy. So that was like that was probably their best pick. Outside that, I think Jacobs is solid, but again, they're like another youngish team with a lot of young talent. So like they're doing the kind of same thing the Lions were doing the like last few years. Like, hey, like we're running it back with the guys we've been drafting. We like where we're at. They got all three of the receivers are on rookie contracts. I think like they are like, and they're new tight end. Like they got a complete young crew now. Left tackle was a big glaring hole for them with what's his name retiring too.
Bakhtiari.
Yeah.
They released him,
Yeah.
I believe, but yeah, I think he's probably
Or whatever it
retiring.
is, yeah.
Josh Jacobs has what? Averaged 3.5 yards a carry last year. 2 years ago, 4.9. So 3.9 the year before that. It's not like, I don't know.
That Raiders offense
Nothing
was
special.
that Raiders offense was hard to watch, especially when you got O'Connell playing quarterback. Like you've got one threat and it's behind you.
Pretty much.
But regardless, I think where do we, after talking these outlooks here, where do we see from now? Where do we see the standings ending at the end of 2024? Do we see the Packers? Do we see the Packers as a second place team again, or maybe were they third? I think they were third this year.
Oh, they came second.
They were second.
They were second.
They made the playoffs.
Yeah, they made
yeah.
the playoffs. That's right. I'm sorry.
I think Packers are they're the next best team to the Lions, like without a doubt in my mind. You started seeing them kind of the chemistry coming together late in the last season, and they fucking look good. And as long as Jordan Love's not a 1-year wonder, like they probably will continue growing and getting better in that sense. So like that's the best competition in the NFC North right now. Like you don't have any quarterbacks on the other team, so you can't really put any confidence behind those at all. And even if they did, like Jordan Love came about, but he's been in the league for 4 years. Like he's been learning. He's been sitting there, like taking this stuff in and getting taught by Aaron Rodgers, the coach. So it's not like he was just some like new rookie quarterback that came in and did what he did. So like it took a few years of like him sitting back and learning from afar. And if he's got, who knows? Maybe he's just flash in the pan and he just has a complete shit season this year. Doesn't look that way, but I fucking hope so. Just not fucking fair, Green Bay. Fucking hate them. I do.
I mean, it's fine.
so
It's fine. It's fine if it's okay if he's a good quarterback and a top 10 quarterback. Like,
No,
you know,
it's the fact that Green Bay's done it for fucking 4 decades
no,
now.
the difference is he going to be the best? And that's what Aaron Rodgers was, the best. Brett Favre was a 1-2 of the best in his time. Like, if you tell me now Love in a couple years is going to be, we're talking every single year, it's either him or Mahomes or CJ Stroud MVP every single year. Yeah, I'll be pissed. But right now, like, he looks good. He looked good last year. Like, what does that good mean? Does it mean he's 10 through 15 one year? The next year he's a tie like 7 guy. Is he like what a Jared Goff, Dak Prescott kind of career is? That one year they're good, then they drop back a little bit, and they're good. Like I don't know. Let's see what he is. You know, he still had late in the year some really bad games. He had a game lights out against the Cowboys, but they couldn't do anything worse. But like I watched him shit the bag against the Giants, couldn't complete anything, you know. And don't get me wrong, it's his first year as a starter. He did great, but I mean, if I'll be the first one to say, and if we're all of a sudden talking next year that Love is an MVP, and the following year, like I'm gonna be pissed. Like it'll be like, here they go, fucking again. But I
think
they
frustrating
bet on themselves. Like they were like, hey, we could go draft a guy. We got a high draft pick. We can move up. They're like, we think this guy is it, and they gave him $25 million to prove it.
The frustrating part of this is that like you've got teams like if you're a Jets fan, if you're a Giants fan, if you're a Texans fan, honestly, before fucking CJ Stroud, like you're looking at the Packers going, how many fucking times are they going to do this? Paul, I understand, but the point of the frustration is that some teams can't even find a competent quarterback, and at a minimum, it seems like Jordan Love seems to be that guy.
My point is that they're like Pat said, they're doing it with a system for 30 years, meaning way before Brett Favre was going to walk away, they drafted Aaron Rodgers and said sit for 3 years. Jets are not letting any of these quarterbacks sit behind a Hall of Fame quarterback for 3 years and literally just study him how to be a professional. Like, no matter if Aaron Rodgers hides in caves and does all this weird shit and believes that Sandy Hook was a hoax and the government's behind it, as crazy as he is, he's still extremely professional when it comes to preparing for games and the way he acts in games and how competitive he is. So when Love gets to sit there for 3 years, and listen, we could think this works because we don't know what the other side looks like. We don't know what people might be like, wow, this is great for Packers. But you know what? What if that year they drafted a top-notch receiver? I didn't look back to see who they passed up on. When Aaron Rodgers, like, if you gave me a fucking receiver, we would say if Randall won a Super Bowl. Because that's the following year they didn't. They didn't have a first-round pick. and he needed receivers, he needed weapons, he didn't have weapons. So it is working, and it's frustrating when you look at it. But like, who did they miss that year in the draft? But that's the difference between Jets, and that was the difference between the Lions forever. Like, we kept drafting Joey Harrington, they drafted quarterbacks, but they don't learn from anybody. And the Packers have a system that's working, from that. But it doesn't mean they didn't lose out on a Super Bowl. Let me see who they passed up on Love. We can talk about something else while I look this up.
Let's move on to the kickoff rule. Pat, you read it off to us before we went live.
Yeah.
Why don't you read that for the audience real quick? Or you know what? Don't even read. Let's summarize it. We'll go back and forth on it, and then.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some like finer points to it because like from what I understand, like and what I read is like that there were like technically like 8 total changes to the kickoff format, generally speaking. I think we touched on one of them. Like I think the biggest difference of like obviously like where they're starting the line is like they have to announce an onside kick now, which kind of really defeats the purpose of like having your hands team or not. I don't know. I think that's kind of gonna ruin the the onside kick. But outside that, essentially they're kicking from the same spot. But they're lining up on the opposing team's 40, and the opposing team's lining up on their own 35. As soon as the ball is caught within the kick zone, it must be returned. There is no more fair catch. It either goes into the end zone, you don't touch it, and it's and you're encouraged to kick it within this kick zone. So if it bounces in the kick zone and then into the end zone for a touchback, you only get it on your 20. If you kick it into their end zone, they get it on the 30. So there's more benefit to kind of pooch kicking it to make sure they try to return it. So I think this does kind of add an element that's going to make people, I think, a little more. I think like a special teams coach is going to become a little more valuable, and how they're able to kind of like approach, I guess, the kickoff and make sure they're getting people tackled within the 20, within the 15. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it all pans out. But like overall, like it's going to look weird, it's going to feel weird, but I don't hate it. Like I really don't. Like
I think it might lead to a little more action on the kickoffs, which is kind
exactly.
of if we're looking for something. I'm all for that. I understand why they changed the traditional kickoff. I didn't love it, but I understood, and it was like a small, I guess like a consolidation that I had made with which was like, all right, you know what, you got rid of the kickoff, but most of this game is still similar to the way it was, so I'll accept it.
I think I didn't even think about it like that, but you are right. This is going to encourage more people to kick it inbounds to get them to return it. So you're going to have live action on that first play of every game rather than what? Like how? I don't even know what the percentage is, but I got to assume it's probably like 80% of kickoffs are just touchbacks.
Yeah,
it's a waste of time.
Yeah, it's just like why are we even doing this? It's like it's just for like it's just because like we've always done this. Like now it is kind of good that they're changing it to make it more of an engaging play and format for people to use, but I don't like the having to announce the onside kick. That's the only part of it I dislike.
That's stupid. That I'm not a fan of. That's probably something you could do away with.
Onside kick is like one of my favorite plays. It's like so exciting.
Pablo, you got anything on this?
No, I think it's a good change. I think college is already looking at it. They said it's getting to college guys to bring up. I find it. I don't know if it was like planned or not planned, but I thought it was kind of funny that the best kick returner, I definitely available now, but one of the best kick returners for the last 10 years, Chris Patterson, he was a free agent, and then they announced the new kick return rules at 9:41 a.m. and then at 4 o'clock the Pittsburgh Steelers signed him. so it's like it's just kind of but no, I like it.
His agent told him to wait on, honestly.
Yeah, maybe his value went up.
So, all right. Here's the big one of the day. Everyone's talking about it. The hip drop tackle ban. It's been a conversation point past 2-3 seasons now. There was rumors of doing away with it. Now it's officially happened. We started with Pat on the last one. Paul, let's start with you. Where are you at on this?
I like it. Guys have been complaining about this. We had this talk. You say you don't recall. I recall a lot of guys complaining about this and saying it should be illegal. I mean, listen, it's not the way the average fan looks at this. They think that, if you're chasing your opponent and you jump and grab him and you like from behind and pull him down, that's a penalty. That's not what the rule is. The rule is literally
that if you read the rule, that is if you unweight yourself, that's a hip drop tackle.
That's not. It's the swivel you have to put. So you have to grab yourself, pull your body forward with him, and then yank all your weight on him. So I've watched it. I watched Dean and Plantino talk about it. This is lifting your body on his hip and lifting it up, putting all your dead weight on that. Jumping and pulling a guy down on his hip is not putting your dead weight on him.
Yeah,
So
Paul is
so
right.
there,
It's
there
not-
there's films on this. This is Zoe. Get over here. She's safe. Zoe, come here. Come here. Can I have you?
Hey, we just got finished talking about a domestic violence case. Zoe, get over here.
She
Let me
said,
show
no,
you how we
this
hip
is-
drop tackle in this house.
This is bad. This is if you're running with the guy and you grab him and you're like on this side, then they wrap their hips around the other side of the guy's body here, and then they let all their weight go on it. So the guy's back is pretty much cracking. Did you know who got ended their season? This is Andrews. He tore his from this year. He complained about this. This has been happening all year. It happened in a Lions game with someone. So that's why it's called. They call it the hip, the swivel to move your body and then dropping your weight on it. And listen, I was watching videos on this earlier. Like rugby got rid of this because they had all their stars were getting hurt like this. Guys were doing it. It was a move from rugby that got rid of it, and they banned it last year. And nothing changed in their game. It's just listen. If you're not strong enough to bring the guy down, like then
Well, here's my issue with this. So it's going to be a judgment call, just like pass interference. It's
Just
going to
like
be a
holding.
judgment call. Yeah, but at least like holding is holding, right?
You
like
call
if you
holding
see
every
the
play.
jersey.
Yeah,
So
you
let
see
me
it
get
all-
through this. Let me get through this. So holding is, yes, I understand what you're saying. It's judgment, but like you visually see the jersey getting pulled out of the guy's off the guy's torso. That's
Yeah.
something you could see. The problem with this is it's a judgment call, just like PI. And if you're talking about unweighting yourself, I mean, I know what you're saying when you roll, but if a guy doesn't roll, but he unweights himself and we see the flag come out because it's a judgment call, like I think that you're kind of and I didn't hear about them changing that in rugby and maybe that's something that the NFL, it's a learning experience for the NFL and hopefully it is, but it's going to make I think it's going to make it much more difficult to tackle from behind. I think that there's going to be a lot of unintentional flags thrown on this. And it depends. It depends. Like a lot of it too comes down to, does the NFL just want to put this on paper to say they're doing something, or are they telling the officials to strictly enforce it? Because once again, it's a judgment call. Pat McAfee had a great quote on it today. I don't know if it's today or yesterday. He said, "This is what happens when guys are running 13 to 20 miles per hour, and someone who's paid to tackle them is coming from behind to tackle them." Like, so I know that there's guys on offense that were bitching about it. On the opposite, there's a lot of guys on defense that get paid to do this that are bitching about the ban itself. So it's the pro is clear, right? The pro is that there should be less injuries because of this. And I'm not denying that. I mean, absolutely. Any one of these rule changes has definitely resulted in less injuries. The minute they started cracking down on helmet-to-helmet tackling and spearing and throwing your body into people, you definitely saw a decrease in concussions. And they're taking concussions much more serious now. But I just think something like this, like the helmet-to-helmet, is easy to see. Two guys collided, and you know when that happens, the flag's always on the defense. Right or not, the flag's on the defense. We've accepted that. We've moved on. Something like this, I think, is going to, if they're strictly enforcing it, I think it's going to lead to a lot of calls that we're kind of shaking our head at. And once again, that's if they're strictly enforcing it. If they're going to be kind of lenient with it and they're only really laying the hammer on things that look bad, maybe it won't look so bad.
You know, I don't know. At the end of the day, there's been multiple rules that have scared me during like the offseason. I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna really change the game. At the end of the day, it really didn't change the game that much. Like, it still plays. It's still a great product.
Oh, it's changed the game. I mean, any big hit is a flag now. Like when we were growing up, that wasn't a thing. Yeah. Big hits were just big hits. Now, anytime something is a big hit.
So let me ask you a question. When you watched a game 15, 20 years ago, did you think the product is better than it is right now?
There are things I would say
overall, if you watch the game, right, if you're like, no, I don't want to change. This product is way fast. The way the game's being played, the speed, the receivers, the play call. Is it a better product now, or is it a better product you think back 15 years ago,
It was
20
a
years
better
ago?
product then, in my opinion, because I think if you look at some of the greats, they wouldn't be able to exist in today's game. Your Lawrence Taylors, your Ed Rees, your Brian Dawkins would just get fined out the wazoo and ejected out of every single game.
Well, I think they also would have adjusted. I mean,
But
great
exactly,
athletes, great
and, like,
players.
They wouldn't have
adjust.
played like that, but I don't think that's what made the product great.
Well,
I don't think Lawrence like they did a lot of dirty ass shit.
Ooh, a big
Like,
hit where you
Yeah.
just go, ooh, is just great to watch. In
I
my opinion.
think-
That's just me.
I
but you're a
there's a
player safety
difference.
guy too.
But I think that
Yeah,
there's
when
a
you're talking like
difference.
helmet to helmet hits or people like hitting a guy in the knee from the front. When you're talking about like when you're telling a guy, if I'm running after you, I have to pretty much wrap my arms around you and try to run with you to bring you down rather than kind of just bringing you down with my weight. You're putting the defense at a complete disadvantage. What's a receiver's job? It's to get ahead of the defender, right? So if he does his job and he catches the ball, you're making it hard for that guy to tackle him from behind because he's like, it's like, oh shit, well, what if how am I going to take him? Like, you're going to think about it too much, or you're not going to want to get fined or a bigger penalty or anything else. So it's like, it's putting.
I think
they're
I saw. I
consistently putting the
literally think
defense
someone
at a
like
disadvantage.
someone like literally just said this today. I think from what they showed, I forgot the exact number, but there was only been like maybe like 30 of these penalties all season. Like this isn't like a game changing.
They haven't thrown a penalty on him.
No, but someone went back and they looked at all these tackles. It was talked on like on a podcast. I think they said it was like 30 something of these calls when they showed owners and GMs like what would have been called. Like this isn't every call that you were talking about. This is a swivel. Like, did you guys watch videos on this?
Paul,
Did you
I
watch
did,
videos?
yes, Paul. I watch a lot of videos on this, and what I'm saying to you is,
So what
it
did you
comes
say?
down. If I could finish, what it comes down to is how strict are they going to enforce the way the rule is written? If they're going to enforce it exactly word for word, you're going to have a lot of flags. If they're only going to throw flags on things that seem a little more egregious, then it's going to seem like the normal product of football that we've been consuming for the past 5 to 10 years. I agree in that sense.
So did you see videos that guys were dying? I'm just asking because I did.
Yes,
Did you
Paul.
see-
Yes. I
So a
watched
guy,
that stuff. Yes.
No, but I'm just saying. You saw a video that they said this is gonna be a flag where a guy like from 3 yards dove and just grabbed the guy and brought him down. Like that's a penalty.
Paul, what you just explained, I don't really know what you just explained.
So a receiver's a corner's chasing a receiver down and he dives from 3 yards behind him and just grabs him by his waist and then brings him down. And the guy trips forward.
If you're talking about unweighting a guy, if a guy unweights himself, like, is that unweighting himself? That's what I don't know. Is
It's
that
not.
unweighting itself?
Not the way I understand it now.
It's
Because to me, every video I see is a guy lowering his shoulder. Okay, the guy is past him. He's lowering his shoulder, wrapping his head, wrapping his arms, and twisting his body to get the guy down. I don't see an issue with that. You're trying to bring a guy down. What do we want? Do we want more guys diving at other guys' knees and seeing a torn ACL every week?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, listen, mate. From everything I watch, from what I took as the rule is a complete different from what you're taking what the rule is, and then maybe the way it's called. But from what I've seen, it's three things they said, and this came from the NFL. It's wrapping a guy in the swivel move when you're adjusting all your weight with momentum of a swivel, they're calling it, and yanking down on his hip. This doesn't and listen, if you're right, and if a guy jumps from 5 yards behind it, grab a guy by his waist, because that's the only way you can hold a receiver who's 4 yards in front of him. And if that's a penalty, then the NFL has a problem. But from everything I've read from the NFL owners meeting, people talking about it that are actually part of these meetings, that's not what it is. It's three moves. It's the grab by the wrist, the swivel, and then the unweight yourself after the swivel to yank him down on his hip. You're basically taking your body and putting your body around his hip and yanking down on it, like a wrestling move. Like that's my understanding of what the rule is. And that's why someone said someone said this in the meetings. There would have been like something like not even 30 or just barely over 30 flags if this is properly called thrown last year. This isn't something that, how many guys got brought down from behind last year? I'm sure, I don't know,
Right.
there's maybe 150 tackles in a game. Say there's 150 plays. So I don't know. I'm sure at least 30-40% of those are from behind. So I'm sure they're not going to be calling flags in those plays.
Yeah.
And every time you dive, you unweight yourself. So that's why the swivel and
that's-
yank it down. Yes, but
Right.
that's why there's that swivel. And that states that you have to swivel yourself around the guy.
Yeah, I guess. Like the one thing, I guess the one I hated is like they showed the Mark Andrews thing came up on like all these articles and like them talking about because he got hurt last year on something like this. And like when I watched that play, I saw absolutely nothing wrong with it. You're asking guys to kind of defy the laws of physics in some of these scenarios, which isn't fair to the player then, or the team if they get penalized. Because if he was coming from the side, he grabbed him by the waist. Mark Andrews was running forward. Was he supposed to let go because his body was carrying him, whipping around and swiveling around his body and on his legs? You're just supposed to let him go and score?
Yeah, I saw the same thing with a Tony
If it's only
Pollard.
30, if it's that minimal, then who cares?
Yeah.
If you're making a rule that could affect the outcome of a game, which it will, 1,000%, over a small less than 1% of plays, and what are we doing? It's because now it's something that referees have to watch for, to be mindful of.
I also think if we're going to keep making these rule changes on defense, right? Whether the three of us,
favor.
well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So whether the three of us agree or we disagree, if you're going to keep making these rule changes, and every defensive penalty is almost always an automatic first down for the offense, why not make a false start, back 5 yards, and loss of a down? Start to do that to the offense, even things out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? The offense is in today's game. I'm not saying that it's easier, but the offense is at a much bigger advantage than they've ever been before. You know the play, you know the snap count, and now
I'm totally fine with it because we have a good offense. We don't have a good defense. So
yeah,
it
favors
all
us.
you want, so
it favors us. But if you're a fan of for me, as a fan of the game of football, I hate seeing all these so obvious penalties and rule changes that only favor the offense. That kills me.
You can barely touch a quarterback when a receiver catches the ball. You got to make sure he's ready to get hit before you can hit him. And it's just all kinds of stuff that's it makes it so difficult for defenses because to jar a ball loose on a nice hit when the time right when someone catches it is so hard now because they just throw the flag. Oh, defenseless. Even if it's not a head-to-head hit, it could be just body to body at the waist, perfect form tackle. But since the guy wasn't ready, you can't do it.
Whatever happened to playing the position of quarterback and not putting your receiver in harm's way?
That's all the defenders.
Whatever happened to that?
All the defenders well, stop these quarterbacks are throwing these risky throws. Why aren't they getting the blame of this? Why is it always the defenders making a play? They get the brunt of all these arguments and all this naysaying, and it's the quarterback that's literally putting them in that position.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's too much. It's too much. They want more scoring. That's just what it comes down to. The NFL wants more scoring because a lot of football fans that are very invested in football do love defense and like watching a good defensive battle. The average watcher just wants to see point scores.
The
right?
gambler.
So
I think a lot of it is
exactly.
the
They want the gambling. They are playing
the
into
overs to
that
hit.
side of everything. And to me, just they more offense is better for the league, and I think they kind of prove that with every rule change that's made, and it just benefits the offense. Which again, like Paul said, I'm not mad as a Lions fan because it's definitely benefits us. As a football fan watching other games and stuff like that, it's all right, dilutes it a little bit because I love defense. I love big hits. I love big hitters, and you're just gonna. It's not going to get it as much. It's a piece of the game that's going to start trailing off. And it's little by little they nip away. They're not just going to throw flags on them one day, but they'll slowly make it as close as possible.
All right, boys, we're coming up on an hour here, so good place to end. We hit a nice amount on our viewership here, so thank you to everyone that's retweeting us, liking our tweets, commenting on the Instagram. Big thanks to Paul running the Instagram, pretty much doing all the legwork there, getting some more of a following here. That's led to more viewers and more people talking on our page, and that's a big thing in terms of growing. So thank you to everyone that tuned in tonight. Thank you to everyone on the social media. And we will be back with you at some point next week. Tune into the social media. We will tweet before we go live. So turn those notifications on. Thank you, everybody, and let's go Lions.